But what, they have parking on both sides. They use Nixon and they use what you call it, they use the apartment complex. The problem is that it took away all of their parking. So people from across the street are always parking in their space. They have nowhere for their dogs. People are parking really fast. She's going over there and complaining about her parking.
We're also going to have a moment of silence. Moment of silence. Okay. Y'all ready?
This is the regular meeting of the Mobile City Council, Tuesday, November 22nd. Please stand for our invocation led by Pastor Tamika Farr, Rebirth Apostolic Ministry, and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence following the pledge.
Good morning. Let us pray. Father God, we come to you this morning as humble as we know how. God, we asking you to touch everybody that's in this room. God, we asking you to touch the city council as a whole, God. We asking that everybody that's in this place, oh God, be respectful one to another. God, we thanking you right now that you have opened up this portal, God, so that we can meet, God, and get things in order. God, because the Bible says you like things done decent and in order. And today, God, we just calling everything to order. God, we thank you for each person one by one that you've given us for this city council, God. We ask you to bless them in a special way, God, from the top of their head to the sole of their feet, God. Every secretary, oh God, every executive secretary, every man, God, every woman, God. We ask you to bless right now, God, Mayor Sandy Simpson's, oh God, in the name of Jesus, God. And we ask you to bless his team, oh God. Bless everybody that's here under the sound of my voice, God, that when they came in one way, oh God, but when this is over, oh God, they'll leave out better than they came in, God. Bless the audience, oh God. Bless the hearers, God. Bless the doers, God. And after this meeting, oh God, before we even take on a new year, oh God, things will be done decent, God, and in order. And all these blessings that we ask in your darling son, Jesus' name. And everybody in the room said, amen.
Good morning. We'll have a moment of silence for the family of the Hamlins who own the Drop Inn in District 1. Robin Hamlin, she lost her life on yesterday, and we want to just keep the family in our prayers. So let's pray for them, and we're about to have a moment of silence now. Thank you.
Roll call, President Small. Here. Vice President Gregory.
Here.
Councilmember Penn.
Here.
Councilmember Carroll.
Here.
Councilmember Reynolds. Councilmember Daves. Councilmember Jones.
Here.
Statement of rules.
And good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. It's good to see everybody this morning. At this meeting, we do have rules. At this time, I ask if anyone has any type of electronic device, please at this time put on the off or the vibrator position. The off or the vibrator position. Any person desiring to address the council must sign in indicating the resolution, the ordinance, appeal, or public hearing agenda item before entering the meeting. When addressing the council, the speaker must state his or her name and address. Any person desiring to speak to the council on a non-agenda item must contact the city clerk office no later than 2:00 p.m. prior to the council meeting. The subject that he or she wishes to express must be identified and pertain to the city of Mobile business. Any person who has not given proper notice to the city clerk office and wishes to speak on a non-agenda item would not be allowed to address the council. Each speaker is allowed 3 minutes to address the council. A bell will sound to indicate the end of 2 minutes. 1 minute remains for summarizing. The second bell indicates the time has expired. When addressing the council, there is to be no personal address to any individual council members. All statements are to be made to the chair, who will recognize any council member who wishes to respond. To maintain decorum, there will be no undue applause and a public outcry allowed. Madam City Clerk.
Approval of minutes of November 8th and 15th.
Second.
Been properly moved and second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Minutes approved.
Communications from the mayor.
Good morning. Good to see everyone this morning. Last Friday night, for those that were there, we all had a great time lighting the Christmas tree. I think it was the largest outpouring of citizens, the participation that I've seen since I've been the mayor of the last 9 years. Mobile Parks and Rec Department did a fantastic job teeing up all the events and the fun things to do during the lighting of the tree. There's actually some pictures that look like it was snowing in Mobile. So anyway, great event. Thanks to all of our city employees that made that happen. If you're interested in the upcoming events that we have during the rest of the holidays, you can go to our social media account, and if you look under "Tis the Season Holiday Events Calendar," that's "Tis the Season Holiday Events Calendar," or just go to our website, www.citymobile.org. So anyway, again, great party. Iron Bowl Block Party is this Saturday. The place to watch it is going to be at Dolphin and Lawrence Street. Our party, or the pre-party, is going to start at 12:20. The coverage of the game starts at 2:30. So we hope to see you there. It was a huge outturn for that event last year. There's a massive LED screen there. We have a live DJ and prize giveaways for the best dressed and most spirited fans, for anybody that may be so inclined. Anyway, so really excited about that. Also, there'll be vendors and many local businesses in that downtown area offering specials during the game. We also have another special event during the block party. Really, it occurs right before the block party, and it's called the Office of Supply Diversity, and we'll be hosting the Small Business Saturday, and it's the outdoor holiday market. It's in Cathedral Square from 12 to 4. But the Parks and Rec Department will be teaming with our Office of Supplier Diversity to host that. And again, it's from 12 to 4, and we'll have more than 30 small businesses there who will bring their products for sale. One highlight I want to point out to you is that the Mobile Museum of Art has again earned an accreditation by the American Alliance of Museums. There are over 33,000 museums in the United States. Fewer than 1,100 of them are currently accredited by the MM of A, and our museum is the largest accredited museum on the Gulf Coast. Anyway, it recognizes only the very best of the best, so kudos to Deborah Velders and the board of directors and all the employees at the museum who do an outstanding job at the Museum of Art. At this time, we have 2 officers of the month. One is a firefighter of the month, so I'll call on Chief Lamy if you'll kick it off for us.
Good morning. Council, Mayor, first of all, I just want to say thank you again for the opportunity of taking a few minutes for us to be able to recognize one of our own. The Mobile Fire Rescue Department is proud to honor Fire Service Captain Reggie Norton as the September 2022 Firefighter of the Month. He began his career with MFRD in October of 1994. He promoted to the rank of driver in 2000 and captain in 2012. He's currently assigned to MFRD's Hazardous Materials Unit, which serves all of Alabama's southern region. And interestingly enough, Captain Norton realized that we needed some new air monitors for the hazmat team and researched the concept and was not only able to find what we needed to transition to, but he also ended up submitting for a grant, a prepared the narratives on his own for $96,000, and that equipment is on its way to Mobile here soon. So not only does he look for things to do above and beyond his current assignment, but every day he exhibits the competence, courage, and compassion that we're trying to achieve in the fire rescue department. So on behalf of everybody, Reggie would like to congratulate you on being Firefighter of the Month.
Chief Lamy, I'd like to also point out that he is currently housed in a fire station named after his grandfather, and he also, his youngest son is also on fire rescue. So thanks for your family's commitment to the city of Mobile and for y'all's service. Good deal, thank you. And now, Chief, your turn.
Council, Mayor, thank you for the opportunity. As Chief Lamy already stated, this is Officer Michael McGuire. It's his second time up here in the last 6 months as Officer of the Month. Just a couple of things for October of 2022. This gentleman right here before he answered over 150 calls, primary and backing calls combined. He made over 64 arrests. He arrested several individuals, primarily in the 1st Precinct, that were responsible for over 30 vehicle burglaries. He also, because of the instincts that he's developed, and he's out there being proactive, he also stopped a car just moments after the individuals involved were involving a shooting into, which has kind of plagued our community the first part of this year. With that said, the officer has a great attitude. He embodies all the standards of excellence that we're pushing: attitude, appearance, competence, and service. And I think we should all be proud that he is one of Mobile's finest.
Chief Pine, I would say about Officer McGuire, as you recall, when we were sitting there discussing gun violence and the challenges that we have convincing young people of the dangers of carrying a gun, that it was his insight that made, I think, us older guys realize how negative all the video and on social media and the sharing of these videos of kids fighting, and how the embarrassment that's associated with that, and then how that leads to retaliation. So once again, I think that as we get older, we need to be listening to the younger generation to tell us how to solve some of those problems. So thank you, Officer McGuire. Counselor, I've got to make a quick phone call, but I'll be back, okay? But that concludes my remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Adoption of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Been properly moved and second in discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Agenda's adopted.
Appeals, we have requests for a waiver of the noise ordinance on December the 3rd on Berkeley Avenue, December 23rd in Bienville Square, December the 3rd on Gulfdale Drive, and November 24th in Public Safety Memorial Park.
So moved. Second.
Been properly moved and second in the discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Item passes.
Public hearings. Today is a public hearing to consider ordinance to amend proposed amendments to section 64.3.1 Downtown Development District of the current zoning ordinance.
Now, this opened up the public hearing for this particular said item. Is anyone present that would like to address the council? You may do so at this time by coming down to the podium, stating your name and your address.
Good morning. I'm Carol Hunter with the Downtown Mobile Alliance, 261 Dolphin Street. I'd like to speak in support of the compromise amendment to the Downtown District Development Code sponsored by Council members Carroll and Jones. This compromise amendment preserves the integrity of the zoning code adopted by the Council in 2014 and used successfully by developers throughout downtown ever since then. Maintaining the transects that have been in place for 8 years gives developers both the flexibility and the predictability that they need when investing millions of dollars in our city center. We would suggest a few small tweaks to the amendment, primarily regarding the use table, such as notations denoting uses that would not be allowed on the site and uses that would require planning commission approval. Senior and elderly housing and nursing and retirement housing should be deleted from uses in T3, since the building form and site requirements of T3 prohibit construction of the type and size building commonly used for those purposes. Also, the code for the entirety of downtown would be cleaner if the council, as owner of the Civic Center property, simply passed a resolution stating the uses you would not consider in T5.2 on any lots to be created out of that property bounded by Civic Center Drive, Claiborne Street, Canal Street, and Lawrence Street. Since you own the property, you can control what happens there without complicating the code with a lot of exclusions and exceptions. And finally, you will be adopting a master plan for the Civic Center site before approving any rezoning. The high-level drawing you will have before you is not a substitute for the deeply detailed plan powered by extensive community input that should be created before any broad redevelopment takes place. This 20-acre site is the most significant development opportunity Mobile has seen in many years. We need to do everything possible to ensure its future uses enhance the renaissance of our downtown and serve as a magnet to draw residents and new businesses to our city. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Jim Backus, and I'm here representing myself and the Church Street East Historic District organization at the request of Marie Dyson, our president. So with respect to the renovation of the Civic Center and the development of the balance of the Civic Center Special District, the residents of Church Street East have two principal objectives. First, we desire the east side of Lawrence Street to be zoned residential, and we support the Jones-Carroll Amendment because we feel that the character of the residential development is better defined by using the form-based code. Our second objective is to have the plans for the redevelopment accommodate the increased traffic and parking load associated with a rejuvenated Civic Center, so that the residents of Church Street East may enjoy what every Mobilian would like to have, safe and accessible streets. While on-site parking is not specified by the zoning ordinance, we feel that the zoning proposed by the Jones-Carroll Amendment will encourage developers to provide on-site parking for the east side of Lawrence Street. As each of the other parcels are developed, we ask that the developers be required to accommodate the increased parking load within the development. This starts with the Corps office building and its parking deck. We look forward to large sold-out events at the Civic Center, which will exceed on-site parking availability. Anticipating this, we ask that the city protect safe access to our neighborhood by ordinance, parking signage, and towing enforcement, similar to what was in place in our neighborhood 15 to 20 years ago, or similar to the accommodations we make every year during the Mardi Gras season. But these decisions are to be made down the road, not today. For now, we urge the adoption of the Jones-Carroll Amendment to the proposed zoning of the Civic Center Special District. Now, finally, this endorsement is made in the hope that the master plan prepared by Populous Architects will not be one more unfulfilled promise, but will be a blueprint for immediate action. Nevertheless, we endorse the plan with some reservation. We never envisioned an office building as part of the redevelopment plan, but if the rents from the land lease provide funding necessary to enable the Civic Center renovation to proceed, we can understand this use of valuable public land. We also presume that the new parking deck may be financially feasible only if parking fees generated from the Corps provide the base load of revenue. Since we have not seen the financials supporting the master plan, we can only place our trust in the City Council and the administration to orchestrate these elements with care to make the new Civic Center a reality. In that spirit of trust, We ask that you move forward with the Jones-Carroll Amendment concerning the zoning of the Civic Center Special District. Thank you.
Mr. President.
Go ahead, I'll wait on
Mr. Reynolds.
As far as the parking goes for the Jones-Carroll Amendment, it's my understanding that there is currently that they accommodate parking on Lawrence Street, but the original plan put forward by the administration does, in fact, require them to accommodate the parking. I guess this would be a question for you. Are you open to an amendment to the Jones-Carroll plan?
I'm not right now, and I would have to accept the amendment. The administration's original plan had no regulation for parking coming from Populous. I think you're alluding to the response that was made by the Planning Commission that suggested that parking should be in the rear of the multi-story or single-family or two-family associations along Lawrence Street at the time. Right now, there's no parking requirement for the Civic Center or anywhere downtown as it relates to the form base. And that was one of the sticulars that we really had to work through in order to get to a compromise for this. So the neighborhood and down the Bay, Church Street East, and others, and the Alliance and everybody else that's affected by this really went above and beyond to find some compromise here. The goal leaf in this is that when a developer chooses to do a hotel or do a restaurant, then hopefully, then the guidance within the structure as it goes would be to provide some type of parking. And I would hope that being that the core's, not the core, the city's parking garage that's in the rear of the core that only has 1,000 spaces, that each time a hotel builds something or someone of that entity would provide adequate parking either underneath or beside it, up to their podium or before their podium as they construct it. Guys, I really appreciate the effort that everybody went through to reach this compromise. Everybody that was involved, from the Mardi Gras associations to the Downtown Mobile Alliance to Church Street East and down the Bay, and the neighbors and everybody that sat in on that meeting, and Scott, who came in and really listened to everybody, came in with one opinion, and after listening to everybody, found that there was another way to make this work. So for the effort that everybody took, we really, really appreciate it. This won't be voted on today. It'll by public hearing and then first read, and then I think it'll be voted on the 29th. Is that not correct? The 29th. So we're looking at that date. So if you would, please come back on that date, and hopefully we'll have 5 votes in place to finally make this work. Now, the master plan, it's a back-of-the-napkin plan that it has to pass also before we pass this. And I see on the agenda that we've added it today for the master plan with the back of the napkin. But let me say this. The property east of the Civic Center also needs to be included in this master plan. As most of you will probably hear over the next couple of days or weeks, is that passenger rail has been approved to come back to the city of Mobile and along the Gulf Coast. So with passenger rail being a new opportunity, and there being land from Gulf Quest all the way over to the convention center, and with if you remember this plan, it has an area in it where the administration has municipal use over there, and that's for a future development of some type of waterfront or entity. I think that we really need to have a plan that encompasses every bit of that so that it works with us. And you've heard me and my colleagues say over and over again, Mobile is a city on the water, and we don't have one restaurant in this city where we actually sit beside the water and have a good time for relaxation. So again, Scott, and to everybody that's been involved with this, we really appreciate everyone helping us get here. It's been a long time coming. I look forward to a development of some sort on this property, and look forward to the eventual renovation of the Civic Center. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. President.
Mr. Jones?
Yeah, I'll echo what William just stated, and there was one reason that compromise was done, and it was alluded to earlier, and that is, and I've said this before, we've heard over and over and over again of all the plans, of all the money that's been invested over a decade of time. And my constituents are tired of hearing about plans and seeing no action. In order for this to move forward, we had to come up with a zoning and a code structure that allowed for a developer to come in and move forward. And for the city administration to go out and find someone who wants to invest and help us move forward. There's going to be a large bill associated with any of this. But I think through private-public partnerships, this city is right for somebody to come in and partner with us and move us forward. But the conditions had to be set to do that. And that is exactly what this does. I agree. We have got to now, and I encourage the administration to move out and let's find somebody who wants to come in and revitalize that part of our city. It's been a wart on the end of our nose for too long. Let's take some action now and move forward. We've done our part. Now let's keep moving this thing forward. Thank you.
Madam Clerk? Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry. Is there anyone else that would like to address the council on this particular said item? If not, this public hearing is closed.
Public hearing to rezone property located at the south side of Dolphin Street, 520 feet east of Sage Avenue, extending to the east side of Sage Avenue, extending to the west termini of Exeter Drive and Sherwood Drive South from LB2 and R3 to R3.
Let's open up the public hearing for this particular said item. Is anyone present that would like to address the council? You may do so by coming down to the podium by stating your name and your address. Is anyone present? If not, this public hearing is closed.
Public hearing to rezone property located at 2819 Government Boulevard from R1 and B2 to B2.
I'll just open up the public hearing for this particular said item. Is anyone present that would like to address the council? You may do so by coming down to the podium, stating your name and your address. If not, this particular public hearing is closed.
Public hearing to rezone property located at 1263 Baker Street from R2 and I2 to I2.
Just open up this particular public hearing for this said item. Is anyone present that would like to address the council? You may do so by coming down to the podium, stating your name and your address. If not, this public hearing is closed.
Presentation of petitions and other communications to the council. Michael Pierce.
Mr. Pierce present. Madam Clerk.
Zachary Huey.
Good morning to you all. I'm here to speak today regarding Ordinance 01-062, allowing medical cannabis dispensaries in Mobile. Specifically, I want to address some of the security concerns that may arise with this use.
I'll get your name and your address, please.
Zachary Huey, 516 Polo Trace in Daphne, Alabama. To begin, in the act itself, the purpose of this law is to establish a program providing for the administration of cannabis derivatives for medical use in the state, which will not only benefit patients by providing relief, but opportunities for patients with debilitating conditions to function and have a better quality of life. This need is balanced against the need to prevent diversion to recreational markets. Alabama has a vested interest in providing medication to qualified conditions and qualified patients. This is not a law allowing recreational allowing recreational cannabis. This is a law for patients to access medicine to help them deal with debilitating conditions. Now, that's all well and good, but what are the practical realities of preventing diversion and making sure this is a secure market? One, diversion is a Class B felony in addition to any other criminal provisions in Title 13A. Two, cannabis is tracked from seed to sale in the metric system. So that means we have RFID chips that will be able to follow cannabis the entire way through the supply chain until it gets to the consumer. Furthermore, these facilities are underneath audio-visual surveillance. That tape is maintained for 60 days. And that includes not only the facility, but the property of the facility. All cultivation and processing also must be surrounded by a fence, and cultivation must occur within an enclosed facility. At our dispensary locations, glass and doors have to be impact resistant in addition to the audio-visual surveillance, and there must be a security guard on property the entire time the business is open. So we have it secured, we have it tracked all the way to our consumer. What happens with law enforcement when they're in a situation where they're pulling someone over, there's cannabis products in the car? How do they know this person is a qualified patient and not someone who's diverted cannabis into the recreational market? Well, when a patient has cannabis, they cannot have more than 70 daily dosages, which starts at 50 milligrams and can be increased up from there. At 75, your driver's license is taken away if you have more than 75 milligrams per daily dosage. Furthermore, medical cannabis, and this is 538-2.08, medical cannabis shall be maintained in one of the following containers at all times until administered to or by a patient. The original dispensing package with an unaltered dispensary label in accordance with the Act and these rules, or a container for storing medical cannabis provided by a dispensary or integrated facility in accordance with the Act and these rules. So what this means is an officer should be able to pull someone over. That person should not only have that cannabis properly packaged, but also should have their medical card with them as well. That way, law enforcement does have a means of understanding when they're encountering a patient versus when they're encountering an illegally diverted substance. So between the security protections from the facilities to patient information gives the Mobile the ability to regulate and control this product and provide care and well-being to its populace. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. President,
Mr. Jones.
is this meeting open to non-residents of Mobile?
We have allowed people from other cities and states to come to address us, as long as it had to deal with the city of Mobile business.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk.
Reggie Hill.
Thank you, Madam City Clerk. Citizens and stakeholders of Mobile, greetings, Reggie Hill, 1007 Center Street. I'm asked today to request sponsorship for the amendments I introduced last week regarding chapters 38 and 46 of the Mobile Municipal Code. Say time permits, I will present an itemized overview of the resolution and ordinance regarding ARP funds and surplus spending, respectively. Seeing that the essence, however, of my petition was submitted in writing, and yet there has still been no formal response, I'm not too sure if we shall get to the latter part of that. Since August of 2021, as those here before me know, there has been an increase of outward demonization and inward whitewashing within the chambers, resulting in negatively consequential circumstances for the citizens of Mobile. This is directly impactful to me because week in and week out, placing my livelihood on the line. I find myself fighting for a group of people, primarily for those who don't even know that a fight is going on. In such efforts, I have witnessed an abusive act of scrutiny that, while intended for me alone, has circumvented the potential and true opportunity of Mobile to progress and move forward. We have made those truly having the best interests for our city the villain, while a certain reported group of public officials through meritless executive sessions claim to be the victim. These cowardly gestures have delayed the positive performance of Mobile, diminishing our ability to serve a public purpose. As our city gets older, we need to begin listening to those who have data-proven plans that actually work. And a way to begin that is by amending Chapter 38 and 46 of the Mobile Municipal Code. Now, I normally don't do this, so this is rare, but I'm going to give a few seconds. If there are any questions, if there are any concerns about these amendments, if there are any people who want to address what's actually going on before we have to go to the next level of this, which I don't believe is advantageous for the city. A lot of these things in which we want to internally expose about individuals, we end up having the city exposed in manners that I don't believe are conducive for how we want to move forward. So here's some time here for anyone who is wanting to address these matters, because again, as we've seen, this has been the problem, right? We don't have anything written to address it. So here it is.
Are you finished addressing the council, Mr. Hill?
No, sir, the buzzer has not went off. What I'm doing is allowing you or anyone else who would like to respond
We'll wait till
or
you
ask a
finish.
question to do that. That's what I'm doing. And as usual, this is the stance that our public officials are taking for matters that are urgent.
Thank you,
We'll
Mr.
see you
Hill.
next week.
Madam Clerk.
The next individuals are all signed in to address Resolution 01062. Sharon Argero. Sharon Argero, 1007 Wesley Avenue. Oh, okay.
Mayor and members of the Mobile City Council, your stated goal posted on the internet is to make sure that Mobile is the best place to live.
Can you give us your name and your address, please?
1007 Wesley Avenue, Mobile.
Your name. Thank you. And your
Sharon
name.
Argero.
Thank you.
I didn't repeat it because the clerk had. Thank you. Mayor and members of the Mobile City Council, your stated goal posted on the internet is to make sure that Mobile is the best place to live, raise a family, and do business. Furthermore, Mayor Stimson has reportedly made halting the city's declining population a top priority. Opting into marijuana dispensing sites achieves none of those goals, except for maybe making it a great place to do business for the relatively small group of people who have invested millions of dollars in the industry of growing marijuana. While we wish no one harm, we, the tens of thousands of citizens of Mobile, are not obligated to degrade the safety and quality of life in our city so that a few can ensure their marijuana investment. Increasing the proliferation of marijuana use in our city is a sure way to increase injury to citizens from those driving under the influence of it, to increase mental illness in those using it, and to increase crime. District Attorney Ashley Rich did a study of youth at the Mobile County Youth Center and documented that around 95% of the youth detained there were marijuana users. The so-called medical marijuana legislation is harmful legislation that never should have been passed. As you may recall, the Attorney General and the State Health Officer both firmly opposed passage of it. The City of Mobile does not need to add to the harmfulness of this bad legislation by implementing it locally. The claim made in the ordinance that locating dispensing sites within the city will generate employment opportunities and local revenues for the city and is therefore desirable and in the best interests of the taxpayers and citizens reflects shallow thinking in light of the potential physical and psychological harm that marijuana use causes to child and adult citizens. Drug-Free Alabama spokesperson Christine Carr reports that for every $1 raised through operation of dispensaries, $4 must be spent addressing the negative consequences of the proliferation of marijuana use. Similarly, those who say dispensaries should be approved because they've heard marijuana helps a lot of people are making a critical safety and quality of life decision for a city based on nothing more than hearsay anecdotal evidence. The scientific evidence should be studied, which shows that any true medical benefits of marijuana have already been derived and made into FDA-approved pharmaceuticals available through a pharmacy with a prescription from a physician. In the room are citizens who will stand now to signify their request for you to take the time to study the potential harms of unleashing this mind-altering drug on the city before approving this ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kathy Odom.
Hello, my name is Kathy Odom, lifelong resident of Mobile. I live at 2520 Cedar Point Road, 36605. There are many myths circulating about marijuana use that I would like to warn you about in case you have heard and believed any of them. The first myth is that marijuana is different from so-called medical cannabis. The industry is very keen to use the adjective medical placed before its product, softening up public attitudes and dispelling policymaker concerns. Since 1970, marijuana has been listed in Schedule 1 of the Controlled Substances Act due to its high potential for abuse, which it attributes in large part to the psychoactive effects of THC. There is no consistent difference between marijuana and that sold by medical dispensaries. A myth youth believe is that they need marijuana to help them focus and study. Regular use actually impairs learning and memory, lowering graduation rates. Some youth believe the myth that marijuana helps their depression and anxiety. It can actually cause and worsen anxiety and other mental health issues. No person suffering with depression, anxiety, or PTSD should ever be given marijuana. The risks are too great. Some youth believe the myth that they are actually a safer driver when high on marijuana. Even low dosages can impair driving. The young man who killed the Auburn University sports announcer Rob Bramblett and his wife in an auto crash was high on marijuana when he ran into the rear of the couple's Toyota Highlander at a high rate of speed. And the people in Colorado, I know, have experienced many more wrecks and many more deaths on the road because of recreational marijuana. Some youth believe that marijuana isn't addictive. 30 to 50% of chronic users develop cannabis use disorder or other drug addiction. Youth are more vulnerable to dependency, being 4 to 7 times more likely to develop a drug problem than exposed adults. The facts are that there are already 4 FDA-approved cannabis-derived medications in existence. They have been thoroughly tested for safety and efficacy to treat legitimate conditions such as epilepsy, cancer, and AIDS-related nausea and appetite complications, and certain kinds of neuropathic pain disorders. Any doctor can prescribe it, any pharmacy can fill it, any health insurance provider can cover it. We already have real medical cannabis available to patients. We do not need pot shops in our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Gail Walton.
My name is Gail Walton, and my address is 5417 Hilltop Drive South, Mobile, Alabama, 36608. Honorable members of the Mobile City Council and the mayor and his office. The so-called medical marijuana law passed by the Alabama legislature is far too flawed and dangerous in its present state. Even the Alabama Baptist Convention passed a resolution calling for its full repeal. I love our city, and I know you do too. You have worked so hard to make our city attractive, wholesome, safe, and family-friendly. Don't ruin it with this unnecessary and irresponsible ordinance. The city of Mobile should have nothing to do with allowing the marijuana industry to gain one single foothold in our beautiful city. I recommend you do more research and know the ramifications of your actions before approving this dangerous and destructive ordinance. Among the most dangerous features of the act is the qualifying conditions are so broad and unscientific. It appears designed to get as many people hooked on pot or marijuana as possible. The most frequently cited diagnosis for obtaining dispensary marijuana cards is the nebulous, self-reported term pain. There's absolutely no oversight to this dispensary. Parents can get cards for children, and parents and children can be users in the same household at the same time. This is child abuse or neglect, and it's very dangerous for our family-friendly, safe southern city. Research indicates that marijuana use, including dispensary marijuana use, leads to cravings for opioids. It is a gateway drug. Marijuana use increases opioid abuse and death. Mobile's own district attorney, Ashley Rich, has warned about the increase in crime that would come to Mobile. Most of Mobile's shooters have been drug users. It's not good for healthy families, for schools, and even a competent workforce for businesses. The Blyer and Barnes study revealed an acceleration of opioid deaths by 78%. So who benefits? Besides the financial investment, the criminal underbelly elements in our city are benefiting. So just remember, there are already 4 FDA-approved cannabis medications.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Lee Wynn Hoach.
So I got my daughter to help me. Come here, Johnson. And these are the things that I'm going to be talking, so I'm going to, if I can. Thank you. So, hey, Mr. Ben. Hey, Mr. Corey.
Excuse me. First, give us your name and your address, and your only person you can address is me.
Huh?
Only person you can address at this meeting is the chairman, which is me.
I'm sorry, Mr. CJ.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm Lynn Hoach, and I'm a resident of 6113 Appaloosa Drive.
Yes.
36693. And before I go any farther, so I have 3 minutes, I'm going to pray the Lord's Prayer for us. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be your name, your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us today our daily bread, and forgive us of our sin as we forgive those who sin against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from the evil one. For thy is the kingdom, the glory, and the power forever. Amen. So look, you who make fun of the truth, wonder and die. I'm going to do something in your day that you will never believe. You wouldn't believe it if somebody told you. So that's in Hakaba 1:5. So we all must go through many hard times to enter to God's kingdom. That's Acts 14:22. Lord, as I speak, word might be given to me so that I can make the mystery of the gospel. And if any of you don't have the faith in Jesus Christ, this is the time. The day of the Lord is here. So thank you for that. And my address to this petition that I'm talking about is we are against the marijuana dispensary in this city. To the Honorable City of Mobile Council. So the FDA has not yet to approve medical marijuana for therapeutic or medical use. These medical products have not been subject to FDA review as part of the drug approval process and have not been evaluated as to whether they work, what the proper doses may be if they do work, how they could interact with other drugs, or whether they have dangerous side effects and all other safety concerns. Allowing these dispensaries could put many potential patients within our community at risk. And we sure have a lot of cuckoo going around. So that won't help either. And the hospital that should be keeping people that are not right in their mind in the hospital is putting them downtown. So anyway, those papers that I have for you guys, but nobody's looking either. It shall be noted that there are unknown potential unintended consequences to the public regarding this law. Many issues have yet to be resolved regarding the oversight and safety when dispensing medical marijuana products to the public. The city of Mobile must take this onto consideration.
Thank you so much.
Okay, I give you the paper, so
you.
if y'all can consider of reading it.
Thank
We're
you.
against it.
Pamela Lee, followed by Mike Dow.
Pam Lee, 6508 Creekwood Court, Mobile 36695. To the honorable council members, please vote no against the opening of pedestrian marijuana dispensaries, otherwise known as street shops, in this Mobile area. To do otherwise is a dangerous invitation to increasing drug use of all kinds. Death by drugs is reported daily in ever-increasing numbers in the U.S. Don't add Mobile's youth and adults to this epidemic with an open-door ordinance. Vote no because, 1, marijuana is historically known as the gateway drug for stronger drugs, more habitual drugs. 2, the marijuana of the 60s and 70s is not the much enhanced, more concentrated marijuana available today. 3, China's deadly fentanyl attack on the U.S. is often mixed, quite literally, with marijuana, the product and the trade. 4, medical use of marijuana should be monitored and dispensed in a similar manner as other prescriptions. 5, loose regulation of marijuana leads to an increase in other crimes, not excluding theft, violent attacks, and kickbacks to government officials. Please vote no, because you want the best for your present and your future community. Respectfully.
Mike Dow, followed by Charles Robertson.
Morning. Mike Dow, 1012 Palmetto, Mobile, Alabama, 36604. You know, it's interesting. I'm spending a great deal of my time these days trying to solve a real problem we have, a serious problem, not just here in Mobile, but nationwide. 7,000 of our soldiers have died in our war since 9/11. 33,000 have committed suicide. The University of Alabama just did a study with Duke University of about 8 states, and they did that because the governor asked the state commissioner of Veterans Affairs find out why so many of our veterans are dying. And the number was told to be 24 a day committed suicide. And the University of Alabama found out another 20 a day are dying from overdoses. So I would just encourage Mobile citizens in the city, if we want to be serious about stopping things that are killing people and causing problems, let's start having these kind of meetings on opioids, because they're out there in huge numbers right now. We took a poll of Mobile veterans, the Community Foundation did, and found that 50% of them have PTSD, mental trauma, acute pain, or addiction. Well, guess what? They can't go to self-help if they're on opioids. And with the amount of 22 a day overdoses on opioids taking place and 24 a day suicides being committed, guys, our medicines aren't working. We can talk about what the FDA might have done for this and that, and what we got, alternative methods, this and that. Those methods aren't working today. Fentanyl, synthetic fentanyl, is 100 times more powerful than morphine. Think about that for a second. It is 50 times more powerful than heroin. And we're giving these things out to mask pain and trauma and even more minor things. We're handing opioids out that are in fact killing large numbers of people. The CDC said in 2018, this is a national emergency. Now, we have not allowed Congress to authorize the VA or the FDA to use these products. Why is that so? Big Pharma has a free lobbyist for every single congressman and senator. There are billions of dollars being made in the opioid trade. Guys, that's our monster. That's what we ought to be paying attention to. And I'm trying to bring attention to the fact that the Israelis discovered there's an endocannabinoid system inside of your body. And the cannabinoids that are in the hemp plant and in the medical cannabis plant have enzymes and connectors, and they connect your brain, your nervous system, and your organs in your body. And I'm going to hand some of this out to you, but study that. Study the recent research that UAB did on how medical marijuana saved the life of a patient they had in a trial.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. For the ones that do not know, Mike Dow is the former mayor of Mobile. I think served 5 terms. And
I served 4. It was 100 dog years. It was
okay, I'm sorry, 4 terms. But good to see you. Thank you so much.
Mr. President, I have a question.
Yes, Mr. Jones.
How much money does your group have invested in this?
What difference?
No, it makes all the difference in the world. It makes all the difference in the world.
Mr. Jones,
if I may.
Please, if it has something to do with the city of Mobile.
It has everything to do with the city of Mobile.
Not personal money, Mr. Jones.
That is money going towards an issue that is going to create an issue for our city. And that's what's at the back of every bit of this.
Mr. Jones, let us deal with the city of Mobile business. You don't ask CBS how much money they make. Out of respect, Mr. Jones.
Sir.
Thank you. No, Mr. Dow.
Mr. President,
Mr. Carroll.
Oh my God. I don't even know where to start with this. Just real quick, just a quick thought. I believe that the current mayor of the city of Mobile in his first term was a visionary. When he attempted to decriminalize marijuana, it was met by the city head on as a travesty. But when you think about it in the terms that I do, and you see some of the things that I've seen growing up, well, I could take you to a place in the city where every corner somebody's selling marijuana on the corner. I can take you down some streets in the most affluent neighborhoods in this city where they're selling it out of the house, and it's unregulated, where people are selling it to each other either for recreational use or for medical use because they can't get it legally. So, when you think about it, when you call it a pot shop on a corner, some of your own neighborhoods have pot shops in people's houses that live right next door to you that you just don't see. And when you think about it, people are selling it on the corners every day illegally, So at what point do we get this right? And I know there are a lot of questions on regulations. How do you control it? How do you prevent minors from buying it? How do you do all of these things the same way that we've regulated alcohol? For years, people were drinking alcohol out of a mug. What's that club? The Lions Club? They have an old picture on the wall with them drinking alcohol that looks like it's in a coffee cup, but it was actually alcohol because it was during the time of Prohibition. How long did it take for us to make alcohol legal? We're looking at some of the same things. Alcohol probably causes, I don't know how many brain cells that it kills every day. I don't know what marijuana does. But I do know that to say that a legalized dispensary that is attached to a license, it is kind of backwards when we all know that there are more illegal dispensaries on the street then there will ever be dispensaries that are legalized. And how are you going to prevent the people from buying it off the street? Wouldn't you rather have it regulated and controlled?
No, applause from the audience. Madam Clerk.
Mr. President.
Mr. Penn.
You know, we had this discussion in pre-council, and I always have moments where I feel like we don't look at the bigger picture, and we don't, and words are powerful. I always tell people words are powerful. So let me ask a question. Do we have any researchers of marijuana in here? Stand up, please. Do we have any doctors from a medical standpoint understand marijuana, like you went to school for that? So anybody can bring another article in and read documentation and say, I'm for it or I'm against it. I can bring proof that it's good, that it's for it, or I can bring proof that I'm against it. The point of me making this statement is that I heard people come down speaking about faith. My faith is everything. I believe in. Anybody know me? Faith, family is very important to me. But I heard statements like, if you support this, shallow thinking, dangerous, irresponsible, and we don't even have all the facts. So if you don't have all the facts, how can you call another group irresponsible and shallow thinking when you don't even have all the facts? What we have to do, and I said this before in the last time, we need to get all the, it's good to have discussions, but it's wrong to have discussions when you are being disrespectful. It's a difference from having a disagreement than being disrespectful. It's disrespectful to tell someone who don't believe in what you're believing, they have a shallow thought, where they can give you information and say, that benefited me personally. That's disrespectful. And as a people, that's been our problem. We can do it the right way, but the problem is we want to fight and be against each other. And when someone disagrees, then we want to now, oh, you're shallow, you evil, you the devil. But I don't see nowhere in the Bible where Jesus acted that way. Now, after the thing, we can sit down, because I'm a Bible scholar, so we can go through the word if you want to sit after this. So we can sit and do it. But Jesus was love. And he sat down and talked. He didn't come and call people shallow thinkers. He came down and said, let's figure this out.
I'm going to ask you one more time to keep the audience, keep your talk to yourself, please.
And that's the problem here, guys. Everything I said, it just proved the point. As people, we should be respectful and respect everybody's opinion and listen. Let's listen. Let's figure it out together. It's guidelines that you can figure out together. But when you come out and it's anger, you'll never figure it out. Because I'm going to tell you this, and I'm speaking for Corey Penn. If I'm wrong on something and you yelling at me, I can't even hear you, even if I'm wrong. So the best thing is let's talk, let's figure out and not call people names and make statements, but let's sit down and have a conversation and figure it out together. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. President.
Mr. Reynolds and Mr. Jones.
I want to make a quick comment. Even though this may not be the most appropriate time to make it, probably when the item's taken up, I just want to make a comment that we are a city. We're not state legislators. We're not the federal government. We are a city. And it's important that we keep all of this in perspective, that we only control the laws of our city. And the state legislature has given us the ability to adopt an ordinance to allow dispensaries and production, manufacturing of cannabis for an expanded medical use, because we know that it's already available today, as has been outlined earlier. And it's if we pass the ordinance that's before us today, it's very broad and general and not specific really, and it just defers to the state law that's been passed. The city is not taking the opportunity it has before it to restrict or change or modify how our cannabis operation here will operate. It's my opinion, at least based on the comments I've heard so far, that there's probably enough votes to pass this, no matter what. But just because we can doesn't mean we always should. And then also, since we have been presented with this opportunity to get it right the first time, we should truly take advantage of that. And the way this procedurally is set up and structured would be that we would take a vote on this next week after having Thanksgiving dinner with our families and being out of town and not paying much attention to all of this. And then on Monday, we'll have a committee meeting, which there'll be people invited, from the Cannabis Commission and various other groups to come speak, and maybe the public will give some input, maybe not. And then we're expected to vote on it Tuesday to get this monumental, change implemented to our city and how it's going to roll out. And with a lot of questions unanswered, I still haven't seen anything from the Alabama Department of Revenue that we're really even going to be able to tax this. Now, I've heard opinions from folks that says we are, but I haven't seen that. I haven't seen what those rules look like. Once this is enacted, does that mean these folks that are going to be operating or at least submitting applications, if approved, are going to be able to hang big marijuana signs and just down the road from your neighborhood? Or where will they be able to operate? Can they just go to any zoning they want? Is it going to be R3? Is it going to be B1, B5? Is it I1 or I2? I don't know. And I just think it's premature for anybody to try to jump on this fad, this trend, this outcry from the folks that are going to benefit the most, which is the people who are applying for the license. I think it's a little bit silly and irresponsible in some way to say, well, just because we can, we should. I think it makes more sense to me and my constituents to say, hold on, let's take a breath on this. Let's try to get all the facts answered by the Cannabis Commission, of which, by the way, there's not one person on here that represents the citizens of Mobile. What I see when I look at the Cannabis Commission, although I've read their minutes, they've conducted very good meetings, I see doctors, I see a banker, I see farmers, I see nursery owners, and only two people I would say would be representative of the voice of the people, at least partially. Number one would be one judge, and the other would be a representative from the Alabama Law Enforcement Agency. Now, if they took a vote, those folks don't stand a chance. So before we defer all our rights and our ability to intervene and interject to this body, I suggest we take a breath, let's figure out what works best for Mobile, and then we put forward an ordinance that is not so broad and general. We narrow it a touch to get it right. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. Jones? No, applause. Mr. Jones?
This body was elected by the people to uphold and pass laws. Heard a lot of comments in here about what people are doing outside those laws. Why don't we just do that because they're doing that? Should that be our litmus test? There's no such thing as medical marijuana. It's cannabis. It's in a different form. I don't care if you smoke it. I don't care if you take a gummy. I don't care if you take a pill. It's got the same mind-altering effects in any form. It is a drug. Medical marijuana is currently being prescribed by doctors and given through pharmaceutical entities in this city today. There's somebody that normally sits right over there in this city council meeting that is terminally ill that just picked up a prescription recently for medical marijuana. Through her doctor, prescribed through a pharmacy. That's secure. I have no issues with that. That's regulated. That's overseen. That's enforced. Our ordinance, there's nothing about enforcement in this ordinance. It's 2 pages. There's nothing about oversight. There's nothing about regulation. The only thing it says in here is the location and operation of dispensing sites within the city will generate employment opportunities in and local revenues for the city and is therefore desirable and in the best interest of the taxpayers and citizens of the city. And there's your beef. There's the bottom line. Everything's got a bottom line. It's not about veterans. I'm a veteran. I've got the same symptoms half the other veterans do. I spent 8 years in Iraq and Afghanistan. I've got a combat action badge to prove that I was in combat. I've got the same issues. I choose not to take it because I don't want it in my body. And people have the same choices. Can you go to the VA? No. Why? Because it's illegal on a federal basis. That's why the VA doesn't give it out. But you know what? I can go through TRICARE and find a doctor that will issue it to me and prescribe it to me through a pharmacy if I wanted it. It's called TRICARE for life. It's all about the money. 20, 30, 40 million dollars has been invested by a few of those in our community that have gotten these facilities that are growing it and want to process it and want to deliver it to these distribution centers. And yes, it is highly regulated. Their plants are highly regulated and they're state of the art, but they're not the problem. The problem is when it goes to a dispensary. I can't get anybody to tell me how that's going to be enforced. I've talked to the public service entities in this city. They don't want it. They said it's going to make their job harder. I've talked to the judges. They don't want it. I've said in the gun, I said this in pre-council, I'm going to say it again. I don't know of any other person that sat in a gun court, Judge Whidden. I have. 54 young men, 21 years old and younger, in that court for illegal possession of firearms. Over 60% of those cases were also inclusive of drug charges. This is the bar report from this weekend. Saturday, November 19th, 1:12 a.m. Trafficking in synthetic marijuana, certain persons forbidden, attempting to elude pistol carrying without permit. Friday, 7:20 a.m., possession of marijuana ×2, pistol carrying without permit, receiving stolen property, criminal trespass. Sunday, November 22nd, 5:51 p.m., attempting to elude pistol carry without permit, possession of drug paraphernalia, marijuana. That's this weekend. That's not Scott Jones. That's the city of Mobile. That's not my facts. That's the city's facts. That's not my life. That's the city's life. I was at the tree lighting Friday night. I don't know how many times I smelled pot right out here. I didn't see one person get arrested, but it's illegal. I see a lot of folks getting arrested for fentanyl, but it's illegal. Just because it's illegal, we're not going to do it, right? Just because it's a regulation, we're not going to not abide by that regulation, right? So how's it going to be enforced? Not one person's come down here and said that from the city. I don't care about the state because they don't have to enforce it. This isn't a state problem. They put it on us. They put it on our shoulders in this body. And why now? Why today? Here's your answer.
Because these folks that are coming down here that have millions of dollars invested have to have this approved by December 31st, or they missed the window of application with the Cannabis Commission. There's your answer. Those millions of dollars are at risk. And we're the ones that have to sit here and bear that burden because they're shoving it down our throat. Why can't we get the answers? Why can't we get the right people down here? And I'm not talking about the Cannabis Commission, because the Cannabis Commission wants to see this. Why? Because it's revenue for the state of Alabama. I want to talk to the DA. I want to talk to the Attorney General, who's got to enforce this. I want to know what laws are going to be laid down in front of us that give us a black and white line so our cops don't have to do more work. Because that's one of the biggest concerns the mayor has today, is we can't keep enough police. This is one of the reasons why. Because we don't give them black and white lines to follow. Because we say, hey, this is illegal, but don't worry about enforcing it. I'm not going to be a part of it. Y'all can do what you want.
Mr. President, thank you. I made this kind of lighthearted statement at pre-council. May we be remembered that the founders of the United States of America grew hemp, smoked it, but wrote the Constitution of the United States, probably the best living document that we ever had in the United States. Maybe also reminded that the American Indians smoked coyote weed and put it in a pipe and called it a peace pipe. Made peace with I can't tell you how many others. And now we have to deal with marijuana or weed or pot or whatever you want to call it. And dealing with this isn't, I guess, an easy way to go about it. You know, we have to deal with this the same way that the United States dealt with alcohol and prohibition. I guess we're going to keep selling it out of a car off the street corner or somebody's house until we can get it in a manner to which it can be regulated. But we got to start somewhere. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. President.
Ms. Gregory.
During our pre-conference meeting, we did discuss this at length as well, and I know a lot of people are not able to hear or see our pre-conference meeting, so I just did want to ask Mr. Woods if he could repeat some of the things that we did talk about, which is the enforcement side. Also, if dispensaries were allowed to open in Mobile, what are the regulations, or what do we do next if the dispensaries are allowed to open? What is the city of Mobile responsible for at that point?
Thank you. So, Mr. Chairman, in addressing those questions, first and foremost, to anyone listening, we are able to deal with the enforcement mechanism. It is a controlled substance. It is on the schedule. So if somebody has a prescription or the card, then they can have it legally. We would still treat that as a controlled substance if somebody didn't have the card or the prescription, and they would be subject to the laws of our state and of our city for having that controlled substance without a prescription. I mean, we would give them the same Miranda warning as we would with anybody else with a controlled substance, whether it be an opioid, whether it be Xanax, whether it be medical cannabis, or any other prescription drug that they shouldn't have without the proper paperwork. As far as the dispensaries is concerned, the reason that the ordinance lays out that we will follow the state law is because it's very regulated. Mr. Jones mentioned a number of arrests that occurred in gun court. Certain persons forbidden, people with guns, we still regulate medical cannabis more than we regulate the ownership of firearms. And so those people were arrested, in fact, because of those two different and separate distinct charges. We will continue to enforce the laws as written. And with dispensaries, we have to make sure that they're continually regulated just like the state statute says. So if somebody's out of compliance, they're going to get a violation. As far as the zoning is concerned, the state also handles a large part of that because you are dealing with a controlled substance. You couldn't be an R1 because we don't allow somebody to be an R1 and run a business unless they get a variance. You couldn't be an R3 for the same reason. Whether or not they wanted to be an I2, that'd be a different story. Most people don't want to be regulated in that area. But remember, I-2 is the broadest and the heaviest category that we give, so you absolutely could be there. But as far as a business being located in a residential area, that we already have on the books with our zoning ordinance. But if you back that up and look at the schedule, you can't be within 1,000 feet of a church or 1,000 feet of a school. That is by state regulation already. So they have to follow those regulatory guidelines that are already in place by the city and the state. I hope that answers your question.
Mr. President, I've got a question.
Hello.
So,
Gregory.
So if dispensaries were able to open, they could potentially be in a business zoned location.
That is right. And you would remember, they still have to apply for a business license through the city. And we still have to go through the planning process through the city. It's not necessarily a matter of right. And remember, part of the application process, and I think, as Mr. Penn talked about, is we have to be able to listen to each other. They still have to go through that process, and they still have to get a letter from the city allowing them to be in that area just to submit the application. I mean, that's part of what we're talking about here.
So the city council then could decide to not allow in a certain business location, but we could allow them in a B2, B3, but not a B1 sort of thing, or even
you could, and that is all up for discussion, and I think it's more than a valid point. But as far as dealing with the controlled substance issues, I think there's sometimes an oversimplification because we need to make talking points. We are able and ready to do that.
Okay. To Mr. Reynolds' point about making sure that everyone has a chance to discuss and get answers, there has been some discussion among the council prior to the meeting that we might want to lay over this ordinance or resolution for a couple of weeks. And I think you may be willing to offer that, Ben, if it comes up. So be looking for that. I think this council is ready to listen, to get information, and to give this some time before we take any action.
Let me say this before Mr. Jones comes. Council, we have a 1 o'clock meeting, and we also have additional 4 speakers. I'm going to ask after Mr. Jones, because we're not going to vote on this today, and possibly we'll not vote on this for the next couple of weeks. To hold all comments, we have a committee meeting on Monday, and we can shoot from 2 o'clock to 5 o'clock on Monday. Mr. Jones, and then back to the hands of Madam Clerk.
Yeah, just a question back to Mr. Woods. You say that we enforce the marijuana stuff. If that's true, then how come the folks that sell it on the corners, Mr. Carroll mentioned, and the folks that I passed on Friday smoking it, and the ones on the weekends aren't getting arrested if it's enforced?
So I don't know what specific people that you would have seen or the specific people that Councilman Carroll is talking about. But when we are provided with that information and we have those folks pointed out, we do actively enforce. That is in large part the people you read from the blogger report why they were caught. It's not like we saw them with a gun. They were approached typically because of marijuana smell or suspected marijuana use. That is typically how we catch folks. But we don't turn a blind eye to open marijuana use. That's not something we do as an enforcement mechanism.
Madam Clerk.
Charles Robertson, followed by Mark Minard.
Charles Robertson, 5816 Hanging Moss Court. I got some brief comments. Before I start, though, I want to say there's 3 things we need here in this body. And number 1 is this body needs a group hug. Number 2, we need a porta potty. And number 3, I forgot. Anyway, I'm not here. Oh, number 3. I want to point out that Jesus did raise a little Cain in the temple. Right? Okay. So, y'all work together. Everybody. All right. So what I got, I didn't come here to talk about the evils of marijuana. I didn't come to talk
Can you
about.
get closer to the mic, please?
I'm sorry, I didn't come here to talk about the evils of marijuana, and I didn't come to talk about the medical breakthrough that you can get from marijuana. I come to talk about the ordinance. And there's two things about the ordinance. I've read it. I suppose all of y'all have read it. There's two things about it that I'm concerned about. And I'm going to yield to one of the council persons that spoke very good. He spoke a lot better than I could speak about what I see wrong with the wording, just the body of the document. Number two, and I think this is even more important, I've studied the law of Alabama. I'm not a lawyer. I've studied the law of Alabama, and I've read the document, and I've actually, if it's not only just contradictory, confusing, I think it may violate the law of the state of Alabama. And I think this body is not even close to being able to vote on this thing. I've sent a request to the Attorney General's office to get some information to clarify it for me, because I'm not a lawyer, like I said. I just read it, and I think there's some problems. And I would hope that y'all would review the thing, and both in the wording and as far as the legal aspects of it. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Mark Minard, followed by Pam Mousy.
How do y'all do? Mark Menard. I live at 312 North Joachim, and I'm a realtor with Gulf States Real Estate. I actually represent a medical marijuana company who, pending approval, would be interested in opening a dispensary here in Mobile. And I thought I could come down today and maybe remove a little conjecture on what these properties are going to look like. I have markups, if anybody would be interested in seeing what one of these dispensaries would look like. You know, these aren't the bodegas that you see in D.C. where it's just going to be like a hallway and it's just going to stink of gas station incense. These are pretty much wellness centers. And I'd be happy to share this with if anybody would like to see it. The question remains, why Mobile? So this ordinance is already passed in Spanish Fort, Daphne, Loxley. Why are we trying to come to Mobile? Well, the main reason why we want to come to Mobile is location. The hospitals are here. The cancer centers are here. The autism center is here. The sickle cell center is here. These are all treatable conditions. So it would only make sense that the medicine that would treat these also be located here. And as he alluded to earlier, once they get to a certain level, they don't have driver's license anymore. And a lot of people that suffer from these conditions, they're not going to be able to drive themselves around. They rely on family. They rely on friends, neighbors, and then sometimes public transportation just to get to doctor's appointments. So by locating this property in Daphne or Spanish Fort, we're essentially cutting them off. They're not going to have access to this medicine that can improve their quality of life. And we've heard a lot of arguments against it. I actually have a study with me performed by Yale that showed when a medical cannabis facility was introduced into an area, opioids deaths reduced by 17%. That number grew to 21% when a second facility was introduced. So there is a significant social impact in the community if we can introduce these. And I believe there'd be a very positive impact in Mobile. So that's why I've been actively recruiting them to Mobile. Unfortunately, time is a very big issue here. And either we're going to try to look towards Mobile, or we're going to go to Daphne or Spanish Fort or Loxley. But I believe that if we do that, we're going to be depriving a lot of Mobile citizens access to life-saving conditions. So, you guys have any questions? I'd be happy to answer.
Any questions from the council? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Pam Mousy, followed by Dave Riley.
My name is Pam Maloney, 167 St. Stephen's Road. I appreciate you, Mr. Small, listening to us. I say let's cut to the chase. I think it is about money. I think it's about money making. And as far as Jesus goes, he overturned some tables. He called people some vipers and hypocrites. So morality, you know, as the founders, I don't know the founders that you're talking about that smoked weed. I know the Indians lost the war, but with whatever they were smoking. But Thomas Jefferson once said, without morality, democracy ceased to exist. I ask you to stand up and represent your constituents in this town. I'm a nurse of 40 years, and I truly believe that we have enough pharmacies in Mobile. We have one on every corner, taking over there's a bank and a pharmacy. And I believe in helping the veterans, and if we truly want to care about the veterans, let's open up facilities for them. Let's get them off the street. The mentally ill are turned out. The men are killing themselves because they're truly hopeless. We're not taking care of our mentally handicapped. We're not taking care of those. Let's pour more money. Let's open up more facilities, not dispensaries. So thank you very much for listening to me. And I appreciate what Mr. Carroll had to say, and I thank you, Mr. Small.
Thank you.
Dave Riley.
Morning. My name's Dave Riley, 11140 Cricket Hollow, Mobile. I spent 17 years in the service, U.S. Army, U.S. Coast Guard, and was disabled here in Mobile. Chose Mobile as my home. I've lived here for over 25 years now, and I think it's a great place to live. But there is problems in the veteran community, and not just the veteran community. It's a nationwide problem. The opioid epidemic has taken many of my friends. Almost took me. I was disabled here. I lost my limbs in 1997. The VA had me on fentanyl before I was even out of the hospital. Prescribed it to me for 20 years. I was a law-abiding citizen. I became national commander of DAV, chairman of the board after that. I've traveled this country extensively, talked to many veterans, worked with many veterans. Let me paint you a picture of how a veteran can commit suicide. You know, after 20 years of being prescribed this drug, I was called by my pain management nurse and said that you can no longer come here. We've been shut down. That was the second time that my pain doctor was shut down. I went to the VA. I have nightmares. I have to take CBDs to sleep. And they're legal in every state. I was taking those. I went into VA. They said, we're not going to be able to treat you for your pain. We're not going to be able to do anything for you. It sent me back out on the town. It took a month for me to find a doctor that would take me. They stepped me down off the fentanyl, and I got off it. The only thing that I take now is CBDs to sleep. I don't know much about the marijuana problem or the CBD thing. All I know is that that's what saved my life. And there are many veterans out there that are in the same exact predicament that I was in. I work with many suicide groups in the Bay Area here, and I believe that nobody's ever died from marijuana, but we are losing 40, 45 a day because of opiates. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Ordinance is held over. 01043, ordinance to define the City of Mobile's Central Business District.
Motion to table.
Second.
Properly moved and second in the discussion.
Yeah, Mr. President.
Mr. Carroll.
This tabling of this ordinance does not mean that there is not a path forward There's some logistics that we kind of need to work out to make sure that we can have the biggest effect for all of the districts that would like to participate in this method of revitalization. I look to have something back on the agenda at the first of the year that works for all of the districts and also works along with some of the legal interpretations of zones for the city. Thank you, Mr. President.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Items tabled.
07058, amend Chapter 7 of the Mobile City Code, Animals and Fowls.
Mr. President,
Mr. Reynolds.
I have offered an amendment, Amendment 1, with the clerk's office. It's on record. Everybody's had an opportunity to read it. I'd like to make a motion that we amend 07058 has been produced on record.
Second.
Been properly moving second in discussion.
Yeah, Mr. President.
What?
That's good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we need a motion to put it on the table.
I'm sorry, so moved. I withdraw my motion.
He needs a second.
I need a second.
Second.
Okay, properly moving second in discussion.
Yes, sir, Mr. President.
Mr. Reynolds.
I'd like to offer the aforementioned amendment.
Need a second.
Second.
Been properly moving second in discussion.
Yeah, Mr. President.
Mr. Jones.
Yeah, just one comment here, and Mr. Snowden's not here today, but I just want to make sure that we don't see this as an opportunity to short string the commission and use this as an easy out and not make sure that we have the right members on the commission and that they're meeting the way that they need to be meeting and them doing the business. This should be, you know, in case of emergency, pull handle situation and not the go-to. And I want to see that exercised by the administration. Thank you.
And you're speaking on 07-058, correct, Mr. Jones?
No, I was ahead, sorry. That's on the next one.
Any other discussion on Mr. Reynolds' amendment? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
65061, ordinance to amend Section 65-4C7, tree protection and management of the
Madam
Mobile
Clerk, we
City
have
Code.
to vote on
Yeah, we
the
got to go back.
as
Oh,
amended.
I'm sorry. You didn't vote? Okay.
Yeah, we just amended.
Call for the question on 07058 as amended.
Second.
Been properly moving second in discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Item passes.
Okay, 65061, ordinance to amend Section 65-4C7, tree protection and management.
So moved.
Second.
Been properly moving second in discussion. Mr. Jones.
No, let me clarify. The first, I was mixing two up. I want to make sure we do enforce this and make sure we get the business license right with this. And we've had discussions of what that may look like, making it online, because I do think it's problematic where citizens have to come to Government Plaza to get a business license. That's going to cost less than the gas for them to drive down here. So I would like to see that implemented in very short order. And with this one, the tree protection and management, that's the one I want to make sure that's used in case of emergency. And we want to make sure that we have the commission doing their job and meeting regularly. And if there's a problem with our board appointments, then let us know so we can help correct that. So, thank you.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Item passes.
Consent resolutions held over. 4786, declare the structure at 1005 Texas Street a public nuisance and order it demolished.
Motion to table.
Second.
Been properly moving second in discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Items tabled.
Resolutions held over. 08-1013, approve purchase orders for fuel for various city departments. 09-1014, transfer funds from the Alabama Municipal Trust Fund to Capital Project Mounted Unit New Training Facility. 21-1015, authorized contract with Chris Brewer Contracting for the partial demolition of the decommissioned Civic waste water treatment plant. 21-1016, authorized contract with Adura Group, Inc. for assessment of the watershed for Stickney drainage study. 21-1017, authorized contract with Goodman Mills K. Wood for design and construction administration of a new facility at the Mobile Police Department Mounted Unit. 60-1018, approve amendment of charter documents and bylaws of the Mobile Airport Authority.
Salute.
Second.
Been properly moving second and in discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Item passes.
Ordinances being introduced, 01062 through 64066.
Council rules, these ordinances will lay over.
Madam Clerk,
1 week. Pardon me?
I ask that we waive the rules for immediate consideration for 01-062.
I need a second on mine.
Mr. President.
Hold on. He got a motion. Is there's a second? Okay, been properly moving second in the discussion, Mr. Carroll.
Sure. Mr. President, by council rule, these lay over normally for 1 week. What's the problem with addressing the layover to the 13th at the proper time?
I'm asking that these items be laid over till December 13th today. Now that we've waived the rules, I make that motion.
You only want 01062 laid
Correct.
over till the 13th?
That's right. Make a motion that we lay over 01-062 to December 13th.
Okay, we have to
We need to
vote
take that
to
separately.
suspend the rules.
You have to suspend the rules first in order to take it up.
Understood. I thought that vote was already taken.
No, it hasn't.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Rules suspended.
01062, ordinance to authorize the operation of medical cannabis dispensing sites within the city limits of the city of Mobile.
Move to lay over till December 13th.
Been properly moving second to lay over to December 13th in the discussion.
Mr. President, on the 13th, will that be considered the second read?
Yes, should be.
Yes. Yes.
Mr. Carroll.
I'm just making it for the record, Mr. President.
Any other discussion?
Yeah, Mr. President.
Mr. Jones.
Is it feasible at this point that we could move the Public Service Commission meeting from the 28th to the 6th of December instead of having it on a non-normal meeting day?
I believe we already have it.
Mr. President, that's going to depend on whether or not you actually want somebody from the Cannabis Association there. The commission has been invited, the Cannabis Association has been invited. I have not heard back from the association yet.
And we already have administrative services too, so we have to check on next schedule.
What is it?
What is it on, Madam Clerk? Board member discussion.
Board
That's going to be, that's probably going to be for a minute. Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Laid over to the 13th.
Consent resolutions being introduced, 60-1021 through 60-1026.
A layover for 1 week.
No, not consent. We're on consent resolution.
Sorry. Had it on my brain. Move for immediate consideration of these resolutions by waiving the rules.
Second.
If properly moving second in discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Madam Clerk.
60-1021 and 1022 are approving award of special bonus to the firefighter of the month and officer of the month. 1060, 1023, 24, 25, and 26 are determining appropriations to Alabama Association of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated, Stewart Memorial Christian Methodist Episcopal Church, Revitalized DIP, and Forest Hill Elementary School serve a public purpose and approve payments.
So moved.
Second.
They're properly moving second in the discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Item passes.
Resolutions being introduced, 08-1027 through 60-1034.
Okay, now per council rules, these resolutions will be laid over for 1 week.
Call for public hearings.
Hold on for 1 second. 60-1034.
Oh.
The master plan. Yeah. Move to suspend the rules for immediate consideration of 60-1034.
Second. Properly moving second in discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Madam Clerk?
60-1034, adopt the master plan Civic Center site by Populous 2022.
Huh?
It's supposed to hold over.
Needs to lay over.
Lay over for 1 week. Can I get a second?
Second.
Properly moving second in the discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Item laid over for 1 week.
Call for public hearings. 41-1032, call for public hearing to consider approval of a certificate of public convenience and necessity to Bethel Non-Emergency Medical Transportation LLC to operate a non-emergency medical transport service scheduled December 6. 41-1033, call for public hearing to rezone property located at 6137 Todd Acres Drive from RA B5 I1 and I2 to I2 scheduled December 20th.
So moved.
And properly moving second in discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Public hearing is called.
Announcements. The deadline to request to address the council at its November 29th meeting is Wednesday, November 23rd at 12 p.m.
District 6, Councilman Jones, announcement.
Thank you, Mr. President. On the 14th of December from 11 to 1 at the Connie Hudson Center, we'll be having the first annual District 6 Christmas party. Look forward to seeing y'all there. Bring a toy or canned food, and we're going to be giving those to children and folks who need a little bit of help during the holiday season. Also, this Saturday, South Alabama has its final home game. They're going to be trying to go for their 10th win for the first time in school history, and they're trying to get us to pack the stadium. So I'd love to see you out there. Thank you, Mr. President. That's all I've got.
District 2, Councilman Carroll.
No announcements, Mr. President.
District 4, Councilman Reynolds.
No announcements.
District 1, Councilman Finn.
Thank you, Mr. President. This past weekend, we had an amazing time in District 1. We started early with Thanksgiving. We gave away 1,000 boxes of groceries in our community. We also had our fitness challenge at the Fred Richardson Tricentennial Park, and it was amazing, great turnout. And then we also had a cleanup day. So it was a busy day in District 1. And then this week, we're celebrating the LaFleur High School days. It's the alumni event. We will have our parade this Saturday. We'll start at 11 a.m. right after the parade. Come out to Thanksgiving. We'll be at the Figures Community Center. Free food. We're going to have a great time. And happy holidays to everyone. Thank you.
District 7, Vice President Gregory.
Thank you, Mr. President. My upcoming Christmas get-together is Monday, December 5th, 6 o'clock p.m. at the Mobile Museum of Art. Postcards will hit mailboxes soon with all the details. We will be, again, collecting gift items for the residents of Wilmer Hall. Forest Hill Elementary School's chorus will be there to provide entertainment, and of course, we'll have plenty of great food and fellowship. So just invite everyone to please come. That's December 5th on Monday night, and it's at 6 o'clock p.m. at the Mobile Museum of Art. Also coming up, just getting a head start in announcing this, I am sponsoring a ham giveaway for Christmas. We'll be working in concert with Smith Memorial AME Church in Hillsdale. It is on Fellhorn Avenue. We'll be doing this from 8 until 11, but I'll be announcing that again as the time goes on so that everybody will get the word for that. A great day. Thank you. And also, before I forget, happy Thanksgiving to everyone. We hope everyone has a great time with family and friends, and we'll see you back here next week.
And I'd like to pick it back behind Vice President Gregory. Happy Thanksgiving, especially to the citizens of District 3 and to the citizens of Mobile. Motion to adjourn this meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Properly moving second.